Welcome back to the Warp Gate, everyone. Ready for another deep dive into the Horus Heresy?
Always ready to delve into the darkest chapters of Imperial history.
Last time, we left off with the events leading up to the Drobsite massacre at Isstvan V. A real turning point in the heresy, right?
Oh, absolutely. A brutal, calculated slaughter that marked a point of no return for Horus and his legions. But before we get to that bloodbath, there's another planet we need to talk about. Isstvan III.
Isstvan III. Why is that so crucial?
Because that's where the seeds of betrayal were sown, where Horus's treachery really started to take root and blossom into a galaxy-wide conflagration.
So this is like the prequel to the massacre, the foundation for all the horrors that are to come.
Precisely. And what makes Isstvan III so fascinating is that it wasn't just another battlefield. It was a microcosm of the Imperium itself, a world teeming with religious fervor, political intrigue, and military might.
So it's a perfect stage for this grand tragedy to unfold.
Exactly. It's against this backdrop that Horus begins to weave his web of deceit, drawing in those closest to him and setting in motion a chain of events that will forever change the fate of humanity.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics. What exactly was going on Isstvan III?
Well, the Inquisition reveals that 4 legions were gathered there under Horus's command. The Emperor's children, the World Eaters, the Death Guard, and of course, the Sons of Horus.
4 of the most powerful legions in the Imperium, all under the command of the War Master himself.
Yes, and officially they were there to quell a rebellion led by the planetary governor, a man named Preal. But there's always a but, isn't there?
Always. Something about this whole mission just feels off, right?
Definitely. There were already whispers of a hidden agenda swirling through the ranks. And if you look at the Primarchs leading these legions, it's almost like Horus handpicked them for their susceptibility to the darkness he was embracing.
You're talking about Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children, Angron of the World Eaters, and Mortarion of the Death Guard, right?
Right. Fulgrim, a warrior obsessed with beauty and perfection, easily tempted by the allure of chaos. Angron, consumed by rage and bloodlust, a perfect vessel for the raw power of the warp. And then there's Mortarion.
The stoic, enigmatic Primarch of the Death Guard. I've always found him to be the most mysterious of the Primarchs.
Mortarion's a crucial piece of the puzzle because he represents a different kind of vulnerability. He's disillusioned with the Emperor, feeling betrayed and marginalized, ripe for manipulation, you could say.
Someone who could be swayed by promises of power and a chance to reshape the galaxy according to his own vision.
Precisely. So you have this powder keg of a situation brewing on Isstvan III, all these volatile personalities thrown together under the command of a war master who's already slipping into the clutches of chaos.
And it's in this volatile mix that we meet a handful of loyalist Astartes who are starting to sense that something is terribly wrong.
Yes. We have Saul Tarvitz, a captain of the Emperor's Children, known for his honor and unwavering loyalty to the Emperor. And then there's Nathaniel Garrow, a captain of the Death Guard, a warrior of quiet strength and deep faith.
These are the guys who are going to find themselves caught in the crossfire of Horus's treachery, forced to make impossible choices as the world around them crumbles.
They're the ones who will bear witness to the horrors that are about to unfold.
But the real turning point, the moment everything changes, comes when the librarius of the Adeptus Astartes uncover a devastating truth.
Yes. Those psychic warriors, tasked with guarding the Imperium's secrets, what did they find?
Evidence that Horus, under the influence of Erebus of the Word-Bearers, has fully embraced chaos worship and is plotting to overthrow the Emperor.
The unthinkable. Horus, the War Master, turning against his father, against the Imperium he swore to protect.
And it's here that we have to talk about the Book of Lorgar, this incredibly potent chaos artifact that Erebus was wielding.
The Book of Lorgar. A tome of forbidden knowledge and dark rituals, if I recall correctly.
Exactly. And it plays a key role in corrupting Horus and summoning demonic entities into the material realm. It's basically a toolbox for turning a loyal Primarch into a champion of chaos.
A terrifying thought. To think that such a powerful artifact could exist, capable of twisting the very fabric of reality.
We even get this chilling scene where Horus and Erebus orchestrate the ritual sacrifice of Ving Mei Seng. She was a powerful astropath.
And are sacrificing her to the chaos gods to fuel their dark ambitions. A truly horrific act.
It shows just how far Horus has fallen from grace. But his descent into darkness is mirrored by the growing unease among his closest advisors, right?
Of course. They're starting to see the cracks in the facade. Garvia Loken, for example, he's a captain of the Sons of Horus, and he's starting to have serious doubts about his Primarch's actions.
I remember him. Loken is a fascinating character, torn between his loyalty to Horus and the growing suspicion that something is terribly wrong.
He even receives these cryptic warnings from Kirill Sinderman, a remembrancer and a member of the Lectitio Divinitatis.
Ah, the Lectitio Divinitatis. That secretive cult that believes in the Emperor's divinity. Another layer of complexity in this already tangled web.
Sinderman, with his prophetic visions and warnings about Horus's fall, embodies this clash between faith and reason that's brewing within the Imperium, a conflict that will ultimately tear it apart.
So we have all these tensions simmering on Istvan III, Horus slipping deeper into chaos, his loyalist Astartes starting to suspect something's wrong, and the Lectitio Divinitatis whispering about betrayal. And then
The invasion begins.
the moment the powder keg explodes and the galaxy is forever changed.
And what an invasion it is! Blood Angels chapter records paint a vivid picture of the traitor legions unleashing their full might against the Coral City, the planet's capital.
A coordinated assault designed to overwhelm the defenders.
We see the Emperor's children, obsessed with perfection, assaulting the Precentor's palace, the World Eaters, fueled by rage and bloodlust, attacking the Temple of Song, and the sons of Horus, led by Horus himself, securing other strategic points within the city.
But the Isvanians, they weren't just going to roll over, were they?
No, they were deeply religious. Their faith gave them a kind of strength that even the Astartes found surprising.
They also had these warriors called war singers, right?
Yes. These war singers channeled psychic energy through their voices, bolstering the defenders' resolve, and even disrupting the enemy's attacks. They were a wild card in this conflict, a fascinating example of the unique cultural and spiritual elements of Istvan III.
So you have this brutal clash of arms, but as the fighting rages, we see those seeds of doubt starting to sprout within the loyalist ranks.
Yes, we see Saul Tarvitz clashing with Lord Commander Eidolon of the Emperor's Children. Eidolon's obsession with perfection is starting to show signs of the corruption that's gripping his legion.
It's a clash of ideologies, a foreshadowing of the internal conflicts that will tear the legions apart as the heresy unfolds.
And then comes the moment that shatters any illusions of loyalty. Aboard the Andronius, Fulgrim's flagship, Tarvitz stumbles upon a horrifying truth.
He discovers the virus bombs, right?
Mhm.
The traitor legions plan to use them against their own forces on the planet's surface.
A truly gut-wrenching moment. It reveals the depths of Horus's betrayal and the utter ruthlessness of his plan. To sacrifice his own brothers in arms, just to further his ambitions.
It's a chilling glimpse into the darkness that's consuming him.
And what does Tarvitz do?
He tries to warn the loyalist forces on the ground, of course. He defies orders, risks his life to get a message through.
A desperate race against time. And then comes Nathaniel Garro, that captain of the Death Guard we mentioned earlier. He chooses to believe Tarvitz's warning.
Defying his own legion, his own Primarch, to save innocent lives.
A powerful testament to the enduring strength of loyalty, even in the face of overwhelming darkness.
It's a moment that gives us a glimmer of hope in this increasingly bleak situation. But, as we all know, the worst is yet to come.
The betrayal is about to be unleashed. The virus bombs will detonate, and Istvan III will descend into a nightmare.
And that's where we'll pick up next time, as we delve into the brutal aftermath of the virus bombing and the desperate fight for survival that unfolds in the ruins of the Coral City.
It's in the aftermath, after the virus bombs hit, that Istvan III truly descends into a nightmare. It's not even a battle for control anymore. It's a desperate fight for survival. The once grand Coral City transformed into a charnel house. Can you imagine? The air thick with the stench of decay and the screams of the dying.
It's hard to even, fathom the sheer horror of it all. The Imperial records, they describe the virus's effects in excruciating detail. It's not by the faint of heart, that's for sure. We're talking flesh melting, bones twisting, minds collapsing into gibbering madness.
It gets worse, actually. The virus, it doesn't discriminate between traitor and loyalist Astartes. Turns brother against brother, really, in a gruesome parody of their former bonds.
It's like watching a family torn apart from the inside out.
But even amidst this chaos, there are, glimmers of resilience, those who refuse to succumb to despair. Oh, absolutely. Garfield Loken, for example. Now that he's fully aware of Horus's betrayal, he emerges as a leader among the loyalist sons of Horus.
Loken, he's a fascinating character, right? Because he represents that internal struggle, that crisis of faith that many loyalist Astartes must have experienced during the heresy.
He's forced to confront the reality that the Primarch he once idolized has become a monster. And he has to find a new reason to fight. A new purpose in a galaxy that's suddenly been turned upside down.
And he's not alone. is he? Sol Tarvitz, that steadfast captain of the Emperor's children, he also rallies a group of loyalists within his increasingly corrupted legion.
Tarvitz becomes a symbol, you see, of unwavering loyalty, that traditional Astartes spirit that refuses to break, even in the face of overwhelming darkness. He's fighting a losing battle, that's for sure, but he never gives up, never compromises his ideals. Proof that even in the darkest times, there are those who will stand against tyranny no matter the cost.
The Inquisition's archives, they mention this particularly harrowing account of a duel between Loken and Abaddon, who was once, of course, his brother-in-arms within the Sons of Horus, but has now fully embraced Horus's cause.
That duel, fought amidst the ruins of the Coral City, it's more than just a physical confrontation. It's a clash of ideologies, really. A battle for the soul of the Sons of Horus. Loken, fighting for loyalty and honor, forced to confront the twisted reflection of his former friend, who's now, well, a champion of chaos.
It's heartbreaking to see these two warriors who once stood side by side, now locked in a deadly struggle. Speaks to the real tragedy of the heresy, how it pitted brother against brother, friend against friend, shattering the bonds that had once held the Imperium together.
As Loken fights for his life in those ruins of the Coral City, another tragedy is unfolding in the Precentor's palace. Sol Tarvitz, leading the remaining loyalist Emperor's children, makes a desperate stand against Lord Commander Eidolon and his corrupted forces.
Eidolon, the Primarch obsessed with perfection. His descent into chaos has twisted that ideal into something monstrous.
He no longer cares about honor or loyalty, only about achieving his own twisted vision of perfection. The battle within the Precentor's palace is brutal, relentless. Tarvitz and his men, outnumbered and outgunned, fighting for every inch of ground.
They know they're doomed, probably, but they refuse to surrender.
They're fighting for the soul of their legion, for the memory of what the Emperor's children once stood for. And then, in a shocking betrayal, Lucius, a renowned swordsman of the Emperor's children, turns on his brothers and sides with Eidolon.
Lucius, driven by his own ambition, a thirst for glory. He embodies that seductive allure of chaos.
He represents those who are tempted by the promises of power and prestige, those who are willing to betray their oaths for personal gain.
It's a reminder that the heresy, well, it wasn't just about legions clashing on battlefields. It was about the corruption that seeped into the hearts of individuals, twisting their desires and turning them against those they once called brothers.
The battle for the Coral City rages on, loyalists and traitors locked in a deadly struggle. It's chaotic, confusing, betrayals and shifting allegiances adding to the carnage.
And to make matters worse, a new threat emerges. The Dies Irae.
Ah, yes, the Dies Irae. This isn't just another war machine, it's a titan, a colossal engine of destruction belonging to the Legio Mortis, a titan legion that has sided with Horus. Imagine a towering metal god bristling with weapons capable of leveling entire city blocks. Now unleash that upon the loyalist forces.
This is like something out of a nightmare, this unstoppable behemoth crushing everything in its path.
A symbol of the overwhelming power that Horus has at his disposal. It's a reminder to the loyalists and us that they're facing an enemy with almost limitless resources and a willingness to use them without mercy.
The Dies Irae rampages through the Coral City, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. It becomes a focal point for the fighting. Both loyalists and traitors vying for control of this ultimate weapon.
Amidst this chaos, Garbiel Loken and Torgodon, another loyalist captain of the Sons of Horus, find themselves trapped within the ruins of a once grand library. Surrounded by enemies, cut off from their allies, facing dwindling hope.
Their situation is desperate, but it also speaks to their courage and their resilience. They could just surrender, give in to despair.
But they choose to fight, to make a stand against the darkness that's engulfing them. They're fighting for more than just their own survival. They're fighting for the ideals of the Imperium, for the memory of the Emperor's dream, for a future that seems increasingly out of reach.
And they're not just facing the traitor Emperor's children, are they? They're also facing the World Eaters, those berserkers led by the Primarch Angron.
The World Eaters are terrifying opponents. Imagine warriors so consumed by rage and bloodlust that they're barely human anymore. Driven by a primal need for violence, a thirst for bloodshed that's almost impossible to satiate.
Their presence on Isstvan III just adds another layer of brutality to the conflict.
They're not fighting for any grand ideals or political goals. They're fighting for the sheer joy of killing, for the thrill of combat. They're the embodiment of the raw, unrestrained power of chaos.
Loken and Torgodon, facing these overwhelming odds, are forced to rely on their cunning, their skill, their sheer determination to survive. They're fighting a guerrilla war, using hit-and-run tactics to strike at the enemy and then vanish back into the labyrinthine ruins of the city.
It's a testament to their training and their brotherhood. How they managed to hold out against such overwhelming force. They're fighting for each other, for the memory of their fallen comrades, for a cause that seems increasingly hopeless.
But even the bravest hearts can only withstand so much. As the battle for Istvan III reaches its climax, the Loyalist forces are pushed to their breaking point.
The Coral City, once a symbol of imperial might and cultural splendor, is reduced to a wasteland of rubble and corpses. The streets run red with blood, the air is thick with smoke and the stench of decay, and the screams of the dying echo through the shattered ruins.
It's a horrifying spectacle, a testament to the destructive power of the heresy, of how easily brother can turn against brother, how quickly civilization can crumble into barbarity.
And in the end, the Loyalist forces are overwhelmed. They're either killed, captured, or forced to flee into the wilderness. Scattered remnants of a once proud army, Istvan III falls under the control of the traitor legions. But even in defeat, there are glimmers of hope.
How so? What hope could possibly remain after such a devastating loss?
The seeds of resistance planted on Istvan III will continue to sprout even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. The survivors, those who manage to escape the carnage, they will carry the torch of loyalty, keeping the flame of hope alive in a galaxy consumed by war.
Their stories, their struggles, their sacrifices, they serve as a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the human spirit endures.
This brings us to a pivotal moment, the aftermath of Istvan III.
The Loyalist forces are scattered, demoralized, struggling to regroup and comprehend the scale of the betrayal. What happens next? How do they even begin to pick up the pieces after such a devastating loss? Istvan III, a world consumed by fire and treachery. It's hard to even grasp the sheer scale of the tragedy. Billions slaughtered, a brotherhood shattered beyond repair. I mean, where do we even begin to unpack the aftermath of such a catastrophic event?
I think, it's almost impossible to overstate the impact that Istvan III had on the Horus Heresy's trajectory. This wasn't just a battle lost, it was a turning point, a descent into an abyss of violence, really, from which there was no turning back.
It's like a wound that never truly heals, a festering reminder of the Imperium's vulnerability and the insidious nature of chaos. But beyond the immediate devastation, I keep coming back to this one question. How could this happen? How could brothers who had fought side by side for centuries turn on each other with such ferocity?
Well, the Inquisition, they offer some insight into the motivations of those who sided with Horus. Some, like Fulgrim, were seduced by the allure of power, the promise of godhood, their ambition warping into, an insatiable hunger for dominance.
Others, like Angron, consumed by rage, a desire for vengeance.
Yes, their hearts already corrupted by the psychic implants that were forced upon them by the Emperor himself. It's almost like the seeds of betrayal were planted long before Horus even fell to chaos.
These vulnerabilities, just simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to erupt.
Right. And let's not forget the role of master manipulators like Erebus, whispering poison into the ears of those already susceptible to the lure of chaos.
They saw Horus's ambition, his doubts, his frustrations, and they nurtured those negative emotions, twisting them into weapons against the Emperor and the Imperium. It's chilling to think about these puppet masters operating in the shadows, orchestrating this grand tragedy for their own dark purposes.
It is. But amidst all this betrayal, we also see, glimmers of unwavering loyalty. Individuals who stood firm against the tide of darkness, refused to compromise their ideals.
Saul Tarvitz, for example, that noble captain of the Emperor's children, he fought to the bitter end. His unwavering faith, his refusal to surrender to despair, it's a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable horror.
And then there's Garviel Loken, fighting against his former brothers, forced to confront the horrifying reality of Horus's betrayal.
His journey is a poignant exploration of disillusionment, the shattering of faith, and the struggle to find meaning in a galaxy consumed by war.
His transformation, from a loyal son of Horus to a disillusioned warrior, it's one of the most compelling arcs of the heresy. It speaks to the personal cost of this conflict, the shattering of friendships, the loss of innocence, and the burden of carrying on when everything you once believed in has been turned to ash.
And what about Nathaniel Galocka, the captain of the Death Guard who defied his own legion to warn the Loyalists about the virus bombing?
Garrow's choice. It's a powerful testament to the fact that even in the grimmest of circumstances, individuals can still make a difference.
He could have just turned a blind eye, followed orders, preserved his own life. But he chose to do what was right, even if it meant betraying his Primarch and facing the wrath of his own brothers. These acts of defiance, these flickers of hope, they shine even brighter against the backdrop of Istvan III's devastation.
They remind us that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the human spirit endures. And there will always be those who fight for what they believe in, no matter the cost.
So as we reflect on this, this harrowing chapter of the Horus Heresy, what stands out to you the most? What are the enduring lessons that we can take away from this tragedy?
The profound impact of individual choices, I think. The Horus Heresy, it wasn't just about legions clashing on battlefields. It was about the decisions made by countless individuals, decisions that rippled outward, shaping the fate of the galaxy.
So even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, our actions matter.
Yes. And the choices we make can have far-reaching consequences.
It's a sobering thought, but also empowering in a way. It reminds us that we have agency, even in the grimdark future of Warhammer 40K, that even small acts of courage and defiance can have a ripple effect, inspiring others to stand up against tyranny and fight for what's right.
And perhaps the most important lesson of all is the enduring power of hope. Even amidst the devastation of Istvan III, we see glimmers of that hope, in the resilience of the survivors, the courage of those who defied their own legions, and the unwavering faith of those who refused to abandon the Emperor's dream. It's that hope that keeps the flame of resistance burning, even in the darkest of times.
And as we conclude our deep dive into the horrors of Istvan III, it's that hope that we carry with us. Thank you all for joining us on this harrowing journey, and until next time, may the Emperor protect.